Formal wear dressing, if done correctly, goes a long way in shaping one's personality. And trousers are a key element of formal dressing. While you can always purchase one, nothing comes close to the fit and finish of a tailored trouser. If you are looking to sew one for yourself or your loved one, this step-by-step tutorial is for you. In this tutorial, we will learn how to cut the fabric according to the template, creating the front pieces of the pant along with the pockets, preparing the fly and joining the front pieces together along with the zipper, making the back pieces along with the pockets, joining the back pieces together, followed by joining the front and back pieces together, preparing the waistband and attaching it to the trouser, followed by hemming the button. You will need 1.5 meters fabric of 60 inches width, 2 meters ready strip canvas fusing, 2 meters anti-slip waistband lining, 1/4 meter micro dot fusing, 1 meter pocketing material, 1/4 meter canvas fusing, template for the men's trouser which you can download from our website www.ushasew.com, chalk, scale, matching thread, beaded pins, measuring tape, loop turner, scissors, 7-inch zipper, trouser hook and eye set, hand needle, and Usha Janomi zipper foot. Step 1. Template marking and cutting. We have taken a navy blue fabric for our trousers. Open the fabric and fold lengthwise, wrong side facing wrong. Let's start placing the templates. Place the front template on the bottom half of the fabric and the back template on the back half of the fabric as shown. Let's pin the templates to our fabric. Start with the front template. Ensure the pins go through both the layers of fabric. Pin the back template as well. Now with a piece of chalk, trace the templates onto the fabric. Be careful on the corners and the curved portions. Getting a perfect trace line for cutting is crucial for a perfect pair of trousers. Once done, start unpinning the templates. Keep the templates aside. With a pair of scissors, start cutting on the marked line. Begin with the front piece. Having a steady hand is crucial to get a perfect cut. Go on and cut the back pieces as well. Keep both the pieces aside. Pull up the remaining fabric and let's work with the other templates. Place the fly, smaller front pocket, larger front pocket, and back pocket templates on the fabric as shown. Pin all these templates to the fabric. Pinning even smaller templates to the fabric ensures perfect marking and cutting. Trace out the template onto the fabric with a chalk. Start from the fly and finish at the back pocket. We will need one more piece of the back pocket. Place the template under the marked line and pin. Trace the template onto the fabric. Unpin all the templates and keep them aside. Cut the pieces out one by one. To recap, we have 2 back pocket pieces, 2 different front pocket pieces, and 1 fly piece. Now let's move on to the lining fabric. Fold it lengthwise as shown. Place the larger front pocket template followed by the larger back pocket template and the fly template as shown. Just like before, we are going to pin all these templates, followed by tracing them onto the fabric with a piece of chalk, unpinning the template and keeping it aside, and finally cutting on the traced line to get 2 pieces each of the front pocket, back pocket and fly piece. Keep the cut pieces aside. We now need to cut out fly pieces from the micro dot fusing and smaller back pocket pieces from the canvas fusing. Keep the micro dot fusing right side facing right, as shown. Mark the template with a piece of chalk. Cut on the marked lines. Keep the pieces aside. Now take the canvas fusing and trace the back pocket template over it. Cut on the marked line. As you can see, we have two pieces of canvas fusing. Fold the fusing into half and cut on the crease line as shown. Repeat the process on the other side as well. We have 2 pieces of fly and 4 pieces of canvas fusing made from the back template. Step 2. Over edging the side seams, inner seams and the crotch area of the front pieces. We will now work on the front pieces of the pant. As you can see, we have 2 pieces of the front fabric, one left and one right. We have to over edge the side seams, inner seams and the crotch area of both pieces separately. Let's take the fabrics to our Usha Janome Wonder Stitch Plus sewing machine. Take one piece of the pant and align the outer seam under the presser foot. Set the machine to zigzag stitches, which is C on the pattern selector dial, and stitch length to 1.5. Start from the top of the pant and keep sewing till you reach the end. The zigzag stitches will give a neat finish to the pant and avoid any fraying. Cut the thread and move on to the inner seam. Begin sewing from the bottom and move towards the crotch area. Once you reach the crotch, stop. Lift the needle and turn the fabric and continue stitching till you reach the top of the pants. Cut the thread. We will repeat the exact same procedure on the other front piece as well. Once done, cut any excess threads for a better finish. This is how our edges will look like. Step 3. Preparing the front pockets. These are the pieces that we had cut for the front pocket. Let's work on the front left pocket first. Take the lining piece of the front pocket, along with one piece each of the other pocket pieces. Before we stitch them together, we will do overhead stitching or zigzag stitching on the edges that are indicated here. This is how our edges will look like. Let's place them correctly for stitching. Place the larger piece on the right side of the pocket as shown, wrong side facing right, and place the longer piece on the left side of the pocket as shown. Let's stitch the pieces to the pocket lining. First, we will work with the larger piece. We are going to sew the inner seam. Adjust the fabric under the presser foot as shown. Set the pattern selector dial to A for straight stitches and stitch length to 2.5. Start sewing. Keep a steady hand as this is a curved piece of fabric. Once you reach the end, cut the thread. Move on to the other piece. Attaching this is easier. Place the fabric under the presser foot and sew. Once done, cut the thread. This is how our stitches will look like for both the pieces. We will create the right pocket in a similar way. Step 4. Attaching the pockets to the front pieces. We have placed the left front pocket of the trouser on the left side of the trouser, wrong side facing right as shown. Align the fabrics under the presser foot and stitch across the pocket. This is how our stitched pocket looks. This excess part of the pant needs to be removed. Cut it using a pair of scissors. Turn the pocket along with the small pocket fabric and crease it with your finger. Now turn that pocket to the other side, and we need to give an edge stitch to the fold we just creased. Place the fold under the presser foot and begin sewing. Ensure the fold stays in place while you sew. Once done, cut the thread. We have stitched on the fold. Now we will stitch the open end of the strip to the pant. Place the fabric under the presser foot and begin sewing. This is how the stitches will look like. Now we will go on to stitching the bottom edge of the pocket. Fold the pocket into half as shown and let's stitch the bottom round. Place the pocket under the presser foot and begin sewing. Keep a steady hand and go slow since it's a curved surface. Once done, cut the thread. This is how the stitch should look like. We will now turn the pocket inside out. Make sure the edges are pulled out neatly. We will now stitch again on the fold line as shown. Place it under the presser foot and begin sewing. This is how the stitches should look like. Now we work on the waistline of the trouser. Align the pocket correctly to the top and place the fabric under the presser foot. Start sewing. Once you reach the end, stop and cut the thread. We are done with stitching the front pocket to one side of the pant. We will repeat the same to join the pocket along the side. This is how our pocket and the final stitches should look like. Repeat the process on the other side as well. Step 5. Preparing the fly pieces. Let's work on the fly. As you can see, we have 2 strips of fly from each fabric. The main fabric, the lining fabric, and the micro dot fusing fabric. Take one piece of the main fabric and keep it wrong side up. Now take one piece of the micro dot fusing and place the glue portion of it on the main fabric as shown. We will repeat the same process on the other fly piece as well. Let's iron both these strips so that the fabrics fuse together. Do this for both the pieces. Place the lining fabric on the main fabric, right side facing right. Do this for both the pieces. We now need to stitch the fly pieces individually. Align the fly piece under the presser foot. Set the machine to straight stitch and stitch length to 2.5. Begin sewing. Be careful on the curve and keep a steady hand. Once you are done stitching, cut the thread. Now with a pair of scissors, create notches on the curve as shown in the video. The notches will help the fly settle neatly on the trouser. turn the fly inside out gently so that the main fabric faces you. Now we will give an edge stitch on the fold. Place the fabric under the presser foot and begin sewing. When you reach the end, stop and cut the thread. This is how the stitches should look like. Now the unfinished side will also need sewing. Place the fabric under the presser foot. Set the machine to zigzag stitches and stitch length to 1.5. Sew on the unfinished side. This is how the finished fly will look like. We will repeat the same process on the other fly piece as well. We now have the two pieces ready. Step 6. Joining the front pieces by attaching the fly, the zipper and finishing the crotch. We will now stitch the fly pieces to the front fabrics and also attach the zipper. Take these to your sewing machine. We will first work on the right front fabric. With the help of a tape, measure 6.5 inches from the top and mark with a chalk. Take the zipper and place the end of the zipper on the 6.5 inch mark as shown, right side facing right. The opening of the zipper will be on the top side. Now place one piece of the fly on the zipper, right side facing down. Replace the regular presser foot with the Usha Janome zipper foot. Place the aligned pieces under the presser foot. Set the machine to straight stitch and set the stitch length dial to 2.5. Sew from the bottom towards the top of the band as shown. Don't forget the reverse stitches at the start and the end. Now turn the band to the right side and align the fabric under the presser foot. Open the zipper halfway through. We will now do an edge stitch. Once you reach the halfway mark, close the zipper and continue stitching till the end of the zip. Finish it off with a reverse stitch. This is how the zipper should look when attached to the right side of the pant. Now let's move on to the left side of the pant. We need to mark the 6.5 inches mark again on this side as well. Measure with the help of a tape and mark. Place the pointed edge of the fly on the mark as shown. Right side facing right. Replace the zipper foot with the regular foot. Align the pant and the fabric under the presser foot and do a straight stitch from the bottom of the fly towards the top. Don't forget the reverse stitches. Open the fly. This is how the stitched portion should look like. Crease the seam line with your fingers. Now fold the fly onto the wrong side as shown in the tutorial. We will not place this fold on the left leg of the pant on the seam line of fly on the right side of the pant as shown. Right side facing right. Make sure they are matched perfectly. We also need to ensure that the waist lines of both the right and left legs are matching. We will now stitch the unstitched side of the zipper on the right leg to the unstitched side of the fly on the left leg. Make sure you are not stitching the fly underneath, and hence we have lifted it a little as shown. Back to the zipper foot. Place the fabric under the presser foot. Begin sewing. This time we are sewing from the waist to the fly bottom. This is how the stitched zipper should look like. Next, we will be working on the crotch area. Replace the zipper foot with the regular foot and align the fabric under the presser foot. We will begin from the edge of the fly and sew the entire crotch area. Don't forget the reverse stitches. Once done, cut the thread. One more stitch for this section. We need to give a shape stitch on the fly portion. Place the fly tracing template on the fly area as shown. With a chalk, mark the template onto the fabric. We will now stitch on the line. The zip should be open for better handling. Start sewing. When you come towards the end, stop and close the zip. Take the right side of the fly and push it under the zip and stitch over it. Cut the thread. This is how your fly and zip section should look like. We have also done the shape stitch as shown. Moving towards the waistline. Cut the extra piece of fly with a pair of scissors. We need to lock the zip in by stitching. Adjust the zipped portion under the presser foot and stitch across. Cut the thread. We will repeat the same on the other edge of the zip as well. Close the zip and it should be smooth as silk. Step 7. Preparing the back pieces. We have two pieces of the back, one for the right and one for the left leg. We will work on the right leg first. Before we begin assembling the back, we need to do a round of zigzag stitches for this piece. Crotch area and the inner seam. This is how your stitches will look like. Place the template marked back on the back fabric as shown. Shift your attention to the 3 notches and 1 point near the waistline of the trouser. Mark these using a piece of chalk. Keep the template aside. Join these 3 notches to the dot with the help of a scale. These lines will be the darts of the trouser. Let's sew them. Fold the fabric on the center line as shown. Align the fold under the presser foot. Set the machine to straight stitch and the stitch length should be 2.5. Begin sewing from the point towards the notch. Do reverse stitches at the end. This is how the dart will look like. The entire process of over-edging and marking the dart has to be repeated on the other side of the back piece as well. Step 8. Attaching the pocket to the back pieces. We have both our back pieces ready. Let's work on the left leg of the back piece first. We have the back pocket lining. Main fabric pocket pieces. And the interlining fusing pieces ready. The 2 small pocket pieces cut from the main fabric will need zigzag stitches on all sides for a neater finish. See how neat the fabric looks? Take the lining fabric piece and place it on the right facing of the back piece of the trouser. Make sure you have the right placement. Measure 3 1/4 of an inch from the waistline and mark. After that, measure 1 inch from the top of the pocket lining as shown and mark it. We will now match the 1 inch mark on the pocket lining to the 3 1/4 inch mark on the pant and place the pocket lining. Also ensure the pocket is at the center of the pant width-wise. Place the back pocket template on the pocket lining. The opening of the template has to be marked on the lining fabric. Use a piece of chalk to mark the 2 points. Keep the template away. Now let's join the 2 points with a scale. We will stitch a rectangular box all around this line, leaving about 1/4 of an inch from the top and the bottom and stitching as close to the sides as possible. Align the pocket under the presser foot and begin with a regular straight stitch around the line. When you reach the corner, use the pivoting technique and continue further. Stitch on all sides to create a rectangle. Once done, cut the thread. This is how your stitches should look like. Now we need to cut on this line to create an opening for the pocket. Take a small scissor and fold the fabric and make a slash. This will help the scissor go inside and will give you a neat cut. Cut the corners as shown. Done! This is the opening. As you can see, the pocket is on the right side of the trouser. We will now use the gap and move the pocket to the wrong side of the trouser. Time to iron. The seam line that is created during the stitch has to be flattened and ironed well, so that it settles comfortably. Iron over the shown areas. Look how well the seam lines have settled down. Next comes finishing of the pocket opening. For that, we will need the pocket strip that we had over-edged some time back along with the interlining fusing. Place the glue side of the fusing on the wrong side of the main fabric pocket piece as shown. We will need one more strip of the main fabric which is equal to the side of the fusing. Place the glue side of the fusing on the wrong side of the main fabric. Iron over the fusing so that it sticks to the main fabric. Repeat this for the second strip also. We will be stitching these 2 strips on the center gap to cover it. Let's see how that's done. First, take the thinner strip and fold it into half. Crease it with your fingers. Place the folded strip on the top end of the pocket but make sure it comes till the center of the opening of the pocket. We will now pin this strip to the pocket lining fabric. Make sure you don't pin it to the trouser fabric. Now take the larger piece and fold it till the fusing. This will be placed at the bottom end of the pocket, but make sure it also comes till the center of the opening. Pin this piece too. Before we begin stitching, the second pocket fabric will be placed here and stitched. Let's move to the machine. Firstly, we will stitch the top part of the pocket opening. Open the gap and turn it around. We will be stitching on seam allowance. Align it under the presser foot. Begin sewing. Once you reach the end, cut the thread and remove the pins. This is how the top of the opening will look like from the right side. Now we repeat the same process for the broader strip. Turn the fabric around and we will be stitching on the seam allowance. Align the fabric under the presser foot. Begin sewing. Make sure the fold is correctly placed under the presser foot. Once done, cut the thread. Remove the pins. This is how the opening will look like. At the back, this is how the stitches should be. The second strip, which was attached to the bottom of the opening, needs to be stitched to the pocket lining. Take note that we will be sewing only the bottom of the strip to the lining material and not to the main trouser fabric. Align the fabric under the presser foot and begin sewing. Pivot at the edges and sew all the three sides. Cut the thread. One more piece to go. The small back pocket piece cut out from the main fabric needs to be stitched to the pocket lining. Place it so that the bottom matches the edges of the pocket lining as shown. Align them under the presser foot and sew. Pivot at the corners and stitch on all sides. This is how the stitches will look. The pocket needs to be folded into half, like shown in the video. The two open edges of the pocket lining will be stitched next. Fold the edges inwards of both layers of the fabric by 1/4 inch. Align the folded fabric under the presser foot and begin sewing. Ensure the fold stays in place while sewing. When you reach the end, cut the thread. Repeat the same procedure on the other side. This is how our stitches will look. We will have to secure both the layers by giving an edge stitch on the pointed section. Align the fabric with the presser foot. Go slow and steady along the curve. Don't forget to do reverse stitches at the start and the end. Cut the extra pocket using a pair of scissors. We now need to sew the open ends. Fold the edge by 1/4 of an inch and align it with the presser foot. Begin sewing. Repeat the same process on the other side. This is how the stitches will look. Then, let's stitch the bottom open portion. Align it with the presser foot and sew. Our back pocket is now ready. Repeat the same steps for creating the back pocket for the right leg as well. Step 9. Joining the back pieces together. Once both the back pieces are ready, we will join them together. Lay them on top of each other, right side facing right. We will be joining them by stitching the crotch. But before we sew, we need to leave a gap from the top of the waistline for the belt section. Measure 3.5 inches with a measuring tape and mark. We will be sewing only till this mark. Align the fabric under the presser foot and begin sewing. Keep a steady hand and go slow since the fabric is curved. Once you reach the mark, stop and do reverse stitches to secure the stitches. This is how your stitches will look, and as you can see, we have stitched only till the mark. Step 10. Joining the front and back pieces together. Open the back of the trousers. Lay the front piece of the trousers over it, right side facing right. We will join these two pieces by sewing the side seams and the inner seams. Align one of the side seams under the presser foot and begin doing straight stitches on the entire side seam. Go all the way till the bottom of the pant. When you reach the end, finish it up with some reverse stitches. In the same way, we will stitch the other side seam. Moving on to the inner seam, this stitch is a little unique. We will do a continuous stitch from one leg through the crotch and end at the other leg. Align the inner seam under the presser foot and begin sewing. Slow down when you reach the crotch area and make sure it's stitched correctly. Sew till the bottom of the other leg and finish with reverse stitches. This is the stitched side seam. This is the inner seam and the crotch. Step 11. Preparing the waistband. Next, we work on the most interesting part of the trouser, the waistband, which will be attached here. Open the zipper. Take the measuring tape and measure from the start of the fly to the center of the back as shown. This distance will be half of the actual waistline. It comes to 19.5 inches in our case. Keep the trouser aside and bring in the remaining fabric of the trouser. Now take the canvas strip and open it. With the help of a measuring tape, measure 19.5 inches, which is half the waist size. plus 2 inches extra. Mark at 21.5 inches. Cut the canvas at this mark. We will need one more strip of the canvas, but this will be exactly 19.5 inches in size. Measure and mark. Cut the strip at the mark. Place one strip on the wrong side of the fabric and fuse it with the fabric by ironing over it. Ensure you iron correctly from edge to edge. We will do the same process with the next strip. Once the strips are fused, we need to create a seam allowance around them. Let's work on the smaller strip first. We need an allowance of ½ inch. From the top of the canvas strip, mark ½ inch. Mark ½ inch at regular intervals. Mark the ½ inch points on the bottom as well as on the side of the strip as shown. Use a scale and create a box around the strip. Once done, let's move to the longer strip. Just like the shorter strip, mark ½ inch at the top and bottom of the longer strip. However, we will mark 2.5 inches on the side. Again, use a scale and join all the marked points to form a box around the strip. Take a scissors and cut on the marked lines. Be careful at the edges and ensure you get a sharp cut. We now have 2 strips with seam allowance and attached fusing. Keep these strips aside. Bring in the remaining fabric. We need one more strip for the belt loops. From the plain side, mark 1.5 inches. Keep marking at various points for the ease of drawing a straight line. Use a scale and draw a line. Cut on the marked line. Our strip is now ready. Fold the strip into half as shown and let's stitch. Place the folded strip under the presser foot and begin sewing as shown. Keep adjusting the fold as you go. Finish up with some reverse stitches. Once you are done, cut the thread. We now need to open the seam allowance. Flatten it and then iron over it. Keep flattening and ironing. Be careful with the hot iron. Once you're done with the seam allowance on one side, do the same for the other side. After ironing, we need to turn the strip inside out. We will use a loop turner to this. Insert the loop turner and remove it out from the other end. Now, attach the hook of the loop turner to the fabric and gently start pulling the loop turner out. The fabric comes along and the strip will be turned inside out. Back to the iron board. Flatten the seam line by ironing over it. This is how the ironed hoop strip should look like. Back to sewing. The edges of the strip will need an edge stitch. Align one edge under the presser foot and sew. Go from one end of the strip to the other. Now repeat the same edge stitch on the other edge of the strip. Cut the excess thread. This is how the stitched strip will look like. Now let's start cutting the loops for the waistline. Fold the strip into half and cut at the fold. Take one half and again fold and cut on fold. Again, take one half of the smaller strip and cut into half. In total, we will get 8 loops for the trouser. Now let's go back to our canvas strips. We will now be pinning the loops on it. Take the smaller strip and turn it around. From the edge, measure and mark 3.5 inches. Create 4 marks on the strip where the distance between each mark is 3.5 inches. Leave the rest of the strip as is. Place the loop on the mark. The bottom of the loop should match the bottom line of the strip. Pin the loop in place. Do this for all the other markings. Now for the longer canvas strip. Follow the same process. Pin a loop every 3.5 inches from the start. Take the anti-slip waistband and place it on the canvas strip, right side facing right. Pin the ends of the band and also pin at every loop. Now the size of the band should be ½ inch more than half of the waistline. Mark this point at 20 inches. Cut the anti-slip band at this mark. Coming to the second canvas strip, pin right side facing right at all the loop positions. The band on this strip will be same as the length of the strip. Cut the band. Let's sew the band to the strips. Take the longer strip and align it with the edge of the presser foot. Begin sewing. Do reverse stitches at the start. Keep removing the pins as you sew. Ensure the loops stay in place and are not displaced. Once you reach the end of the waistband, stop and do reverse stitches. This is how our stitches will look like. Now flip open the band and do an edge stitch like shown. Sew it till the end of the band and cut the thread. Now let's sew the loops to the main fabric. Align the strip under the presser foot about 2 to 3 inches before the first loop. When you come close, unpin the loop and loosen it a little for a belt to easily pass through. Ensure that the loop is straight and stitch over it. Repeat this process on all the loops of the strip. Once you reach the end, cut the thread. This is how the loops will look like. Cut off the extra fabric off the loops. Ensure that you don't cut the stitches or the trouser fabric. Turn the strip upside down. As you can see, there is an extra piece of fabric at the start. We are going to fold that piece right side facing right. We will stitch the edges of this piece. The open end of the strip has to be folded inwards by ½ inch as shown. Begin sewing on the edge. Do reverse stitches at the start and the end. Once done, cut the thread and repeat the same procedure on the other edge. This is how the stitches should look like. There is one more stitch left on this strip. We need to get the size of the belt according to the width of the fusing. We will turn the strip and sew on the edge of the fusing. Align the edge with the presser foot and begin sewing. Cut the thread and repeat it on the other side as well. This is how the section should look. Now we need to turn that bit inside out. It's a delicate portion of the trouser, so be patient while turning. This is how it will look once done. Now to the second strip. Repeat all the same steps, stitching the band, doing the top stitch, and finally stitching the loops and cutting the extra bits out. Once done, we will fold the strip into half like shown and stitch widthwise on the edge of the canvas like shown. Once done, turn it inside out. This is how the strips will look. Step 12. Attaching the waistband to the trouser and hemming the button. This is how the waistbands will look like. Now let's attach them to the trousers. Open the zipper. Now take the strip with the extension and place it on the left leg of the trouser, right side facing right, as shown in the video. The extra portion will be left beyond the fly of the pant. Pin the strip to the waistline. Make sure you match the strip and the waistline perfectly. Take the other strip and align it with the fly of the opposite leg and pin the right side facing right as shown. Pin the waistband across the waistline. We will stitch on the pinned line and along with that finish the bottom hem of the trouser. Let's stitch. Take the trouser to your sewing machine. We will stitch the band with the extra portion first. We will be stitching under the anti-slip band on the edge of the canvas facing like shown. Start slowing and go sew the entire band in. Keep removing the pins as you sew. Finish the edge with a few reverse stitches. This is how the waist will look from the right side. Now to the other band. For this one too, we will sew under the anti-slip band on the edge of the canvas strip. Start sewing and remove the pins as you sew. reverse stitches once you reach the end. Cut the thread. Make sure the band is stitched correctly. Now let's move to the back of the pants. As you can see, we have left an opening at the back in the trouser fabric. Right side facing right, and place the fabric under the presser foot. Stitch from where we left and go across the waistband, butt on the canvas portion, and then onto the anti-slip band as shown. Finish by doing reverse stitches. Cut off the extra band and strip pieces as shown. Now flatten the seam allowance with your fingers and fold the waistband over it. We will now give a ditch stitch from the outside all across the waist. Align the fly portion of the left side under the presser foot and begin sewing. Keep folding the band inwards. This fold is very crucial to make sure the waistline comes neat. Sew all across the waistband. And done! This is how the waistline looks like from the front and the back. Let's add the finishing touches. We need to sew the hook and eye onto the flap of the trouser. Before that, let's finish the edge by hand hemming it. Once you have hemmed the entire edge, cut the thread. Place the hook on the reverse side of the belt extension as shown and sew it by hand. Make sure you are not stitching on the right side of the trouser. Once done, cut the thread. In the same way, the second hook will be sewn on the joint of the anti-slip lining and the flap. For sewing the eye, close the flap. With a piece of chalk, mark the position of the hook on the opposite side. This will be the position of the eye. Do the same for the other eye. Hand stitch the eye on the marked lines. See how neat the hook and eye set look? Now to the final part of the trouser, the bottom hem. Turn the trouser inside out and we will be working on the wrong side of the trouser. Fold the bottom by ½ inch and then again by 1 inch. Hand hem the bottom. Repeat the same for the other bottom hem. And done! Turn the trouser inside out. Our trousers are now ready. Don't they look smart and crisp? Add them to your wardrobe and elevate your style.